Now let's see an example of how we can use arrays and for loops in order to do something a bit more useful. Now what I'm going to do in this case is to change the entire appearance of a web page at the click of a button. And the secret here is to define several alternative style sheets. Now style sheets are beyond the scope of this course, but in summary what they are is files that contain formatting instructions that can be applied to a web page so that, for example, they can define the background colours or the appearance of the titles and the other types of fonts on the page. Now I want to have these style sheets applied selectively by my JavaScript code. I supplied 3 style sheets for use with the styleswitch.html page, and links to the style sheets have been inserted into the HTML code with the stylesheet1.css style sheet defined as the default and the other style sheets defined as alternatives using the string tag alternate style sheet. Now the style sheets have been assigned names S1, S2 and S3. Changing the default style sheet, which is S1, to one of the alternatives is, or should in principle, be quite simple. All I need to do is use the stylesheets method of the document object to get an array of available style sheets. And I assign this array to the variable myStyleSheets. Then I loop through the style sheets in the array to test if the title of the current style sheet, that's the one at the index given by I, equals the title stylesheet title, that's the argument which was passed to the method. And if it matches, then the style sheet is enabled and the other style sheets are disabled. Well, that's the theory, at any rate. I'll explain in a moment why this doesn't quite work. But let me look first of all at the rest of the HTML. You can see I've got 3 HTML buttons, and the buttons call change style, that's the method, and pass to it the name of one of the 3 style sheets, and the name that's passed is the one that I want enabled. Each button is given an on-click event handler which executes when that button is clicked. So when the first button is clicked, change style is passed the string S1, which is the title of the first style sheet, and so that's the one that becomes activated, and the remaining 2 buttons activate the other style sheets. Now here's the problem. This works fine in Internet Explorer and it works fine in Firefox, 2 of the biggest, most important, most commonly used browsers. But then I tested it in Chrome, which is also a commonly used browser, and the style sheets weren't swapped when the button was clicked. Well, I thought at first maybe there's something about Chrome, but I thought I'd better try it in Safari as well on the Mac. Safari, again, is a very important browser, and that worked, or rather, in this case, it didn't work, just like Chrome. When I clicked the buttons, the style sheets weren't swapped. Well, Safari and Chrome are far too important. There's such commonly used browsers that I really can't have my JavaScript fail in the web page. And so there was nothing for it, but I had to bite the bullet and try and find out what the problem was and rewrite my code so that it worked with all of the browsers that I am using to test. This, by the way, is a good example of why you need to test and debug your code. It's always useful to test out any JavaScript in several different browsers to find out if there are incompatibilities, and there frequently will be. And it's worth trying to deal with them before you send your code out onto the web and have people report problems with different browsers. Now, I didn't know what was the matter here because according to the documentation that I'd read about the document.stylesheets method, it should, in fact, create an array of the style sheets that I'd declared up here in the links, and I should then be able to process those, and indeed that worked, as I've shown in Internet Explorer and Firefox, so I couldn't see why it's causing me problems in Chrome and Safari. So I wrote myself a little debugging method here, just to count the style sheets, just to display stylesheets.length to make sure I really had the 3 style sheets that I thought I had. And I put a button onto my form, and then I ran it in Internet Explorer, and it said 3 style sheets, which is what I'm expecting. And I ran it in Firefox, and it said, again, 3 style sheets, again what I'm expecting. And then the browser that was causing me the problems, Chrome. Oops, number of style sheets 1. So that would explain why I wasn't being able to swap from one to another, because as far as it was concerned, it only had the default style sheet accessible at that point. Now, I'm not sure why Chrome behaves in a different way from Internet Explorer and Firefox. All I know is that it does, and so does Safari, and so it's no good my complaining about these incompatibilities. I have to deal with it in my code. I've been running Internet Explorer and Firefox and Chrome on a Windows-based PC, but here I am back on my Mac, and this is Safari, and you can see that the behavior is exactly the same. Style 2 and 3 do not get switched when I click the buttons, and if I click the info button here, once again it shows me it only recognizes one style sheet. So how do I fix this? Well, there are probably all sorts of ways you can do this, and I'm not saying that my solution is by any means the most elegant, but it's simple and it works. So I'll explain what it is. This is my original change style function, the one that works in Internet Explorer and Firefox, but not in Chrome and Safari. And I've rewritten it with this new version. Let's uncomment this. Now, the code actually for this version is very similar to the code of the original. The for loop in both goes through the My Style Sheets array, disabling each style sheet but setting the one whose title matches style sheet title. That's the argument that's passed to the method. So, broadly speaking, the code is the same. There is one big difference though. The thing that wasn't working for me is the code that got the style sheets in the first place, document.stylesheets. So I fixed that by using a little trick to get the style sheets by ID. Remember, I can use getElementById, a built-in JavaScript function, to get a style sheet or to get any HTML element by its ID. Well, I've given these style sheets the IDs sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, so I can get those using getElementById. Having got them, I assign them one by one to a variable, and I just stuff those variables into an array. So I've created my own array of my style sheets. So let me save this, try it out in Safari. I'll just reload the code. Style 1, as before, is correctly displayed. Style 2, this time it works. Style 3 also works, back to style 1. So it's a fairly simple fix, but that's the sort of thing that you'll frequently have to do when you're developing your own JavaScripts. You'll need to test in different browsers and come up with fixes when you find incompatibilities.